Nah, son, this is different. Tim Tszyu gets a late replacement opponent named Sebastian Fundora who steps in to fight after Keith Thurman pulled out. And let's just say the size differential is crazy, my nigga. Let's dive in.
A storm is brewing, and you don't even know it. In boxing, some say skills pay the bills, and size doesn't matter. Well, this is a hell of a size differential. Tim Tszyu, late replacement. Never before have you seen this. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Subscribe. Now, Tim Tszyu, I'm going to give him a lot of credit here. I got to do it. You guys seen some of the photos from PBC, their very first card on Amazon Prime. Listen, if you love boxing, you love me. Subscribe to the channel. I made videos about this. I talk about boxing and do the research so you don't have to. Keith one-time Thurman was supposed to fight Australian champion with the WBO. It wasn't going to be a title fight, but it was going to be a good fight. Keith Thurman, he just posted on his social media a doctor's note, basically. He was forced to withdraw. He had a bicep injury. Something's wrong with his arm. The fight's next week, next Saturday. He cannot compete. So a person that was already on the card, a 6'6", 6'7" Sebastian Fundora that you guys seen at the beginning, has stepped up and is now main eventing. I want to give Fundora a lot of credit because he was going in for a vacant title, and that was against BOXER, who has one loss to Brandon Marshall, and now he's in the main event because of Keith one-time Thurman. Now, you know, as the old saying goes, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And listen, if I was the pro boxer, I would definitely take that in consideration and always stay ready. So make sure you guys follow me on social media. I post this graphic that I made. You see this freak show, freakish. It's such a crazy height differential between the two fighters. I mean, absolutely bonkers, insane. And the thing is, Tim Tszyu is not what you would say like considered short for his division, but everybody's dwarfed by Sebastian Fundora. I mean, look at it. You guys look on the screen. I'm going to leave it there for a couple seconds, and I'm going to leave there for 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7. You have 10 seconds to comply. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I showed you the picture for a good 10 seconds. And I just want you to look at that. Pause the screen if you need to. And tell me the first word or the first sentence that comes to your mind when you see that. When I seen this media day, and trust me, I expected Fundora to look taller, but he just looked lanky, and he looks crazy bigger. And it's almost like it's strange. Like, we're talking about a guy who makes 154 pounds, who is the same height as Anthony Joshua, you know, in the same conversation as another heavyweight. Oh my God. To this day, Deontay the Bronze Bomber Waldo from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, right? So we're talking about a heavyweight. Now, he's not as big, you know, Joshua's muscle bound and me with me. And Joshua's like brolic, but we're not talking about that. We're just talking about in terms of the frame. And like, when I see Sebastian Fundora, his arms, he look like a video game character. I call him Slender Man because of the movie. And his arms and like elbows just look sharp. And the crazy thing is, if you actually watch boxing, you would know that he likes to inside fight. So not every fight gets this. But here on my channel, I have this thing. It's an official certification, in my opinion, just my opinion. The BOXINGEGO, Ego certified Ego banger alert. I'm putting this fight, Tim Tszyu versus Sebastian Fundora, and I'm stamping it with the ego banger alert. I truly believe this will be a banger. Make sure you order with Amazon Prime and PBC, Premier Boxing Champions, this pay-per-view. In addition, you got Rolly versus Pitbull Cruz, another fight that I stamped with the ego banger alert. I truly believe those fights. Now, like the other fights, like Edisonde Lara, that's cool. The top 2 fights on the card, they scheduled it perfectly. The co-main and the main event are official ego banger alerts. And that's basically putting me vouching for a fight before it happens, putting my reputation, putting my word on the line that I believe these fights will deliver, and these fights people will get their money's worth. Kind of like a sleeper. Like some of these are sleeper fights that not everybody, because some people are like, oh, Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, just because they're big names and stuff like that. If you love boxing, I've been in the game over 10 years. Take my word for it, people. Take my word for it. This is if you're just getting into boxing, this will be a great card for you to witness and, find love in the sport. Now, some would even argue that this is a better fight than the Keith Thurman fight. Now, I respect Keith Thurman. He's looking like Derrick Rose right now. A lot of injuries, things that have kept him out, but I respect him. I respect his fight game. I respect his craft, but he was injured. He can't fight. It is what it is. People get mad. But Keith Thurman is a completely different style than Tim Tszyu, and he's definitely a completely different style and physically a different stature than a guy like Sebastian Fundora. In my opinion, unless you guys can prove otherwise, this is by far the tallest replacement opponent in height differential that I've ever seen on such short notice. Meaning a guy who was going to fight, I don't know exactly Keith Thurman's height, we'll say about 5'8", 5'9"-ish, Tim Tszyu was about to fight a guy who pretty well could be shorter than him, right? And truthfully, I could look it up for you guys, just so we're accurate. I know you guys like my accuracy. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. But Keith Thurman's been very inactive. He's 35 years old, and he's been inactive, and he's definitely shorter than Sebastian Fundora. We're trying to find out. So again, he's 5'9.5". I don't know if I said 5'9", so I was pretty close. So Keith Thurman would have been technically shorter than Tim Tszyu, because I believe Tim Tszyu is a bit taller. Now Tim Tszyu is going from fighting someone who's 5'9.5" to someone who's a heavyweight frame, like at least in height, 6'6", 6'7", especially with shoes on. And you guys rewind this video, look at the pictures, look at the intro, and you'll see it. This is a crazy height differential. Now, some people are sleeping on Fundora because he got knocked out in his last fight, and he's been on a bit of a layoff himself. But in boxing, I don't believe in underestimating your foe. In addition to underestimating your foe, I don't think you should plan for the worst version of your opponent, because this is not like he was a guy that got the call in 2 weeks and he hopped off the couch and he got to make weight. He was already on the card beforehand in a title fight. Now he's in a unification basically with the WBC, because the WBC approved this fight. So it's going to be the WBO. So now the pot is even more, because now the winner of this fight will have 2 belts at 154 pounds, because Jermell Charlo was stripped for fighting Canelo in a different division, a higher division up. So very dangerous fight. I got to give a lot of respect to Tim Tszyu. He is definitely serving his father's name and his surname proud. He is a ballsy fighter. They don't really make him like that anymore. This man has everything. I mean, he has some to gain, but he has everything to lose here. And just imagine, can you imagine having an opponent that you were training for, like a Keith Thurman. So a guy who was from 147, wasn't a permanent resident at 54. Again, he's 5'9.5" versus 6'6", and he was coming off a layoff. We don't know how his power would have looked exactly. And albeit he's agile and has better footwork, better defense than Sebastian Fundora. Fundora is just a completely different puzzle piece because of how he fights. Again, he likes the inside fight, and you did not give a full camp with tall sparring partners to prepare for this guy. Tim Tszyu is absolutely, if he pulls it off and wins, he should be the favorite. I think he's the favorite. But if he actually wins, I got nothing but respect for him. I mean, even if he loses, I got respect for him because there's so many fighters, and I'm not going to name a bunch of names, but so many fighters would not take any type of chance like that. They're not going to have a guy moving up on a long layoff and then fight a guy who's like killing them in the height department and dwarfing them like that on short notice. They'll just let the whole card go, or like say, hey, Rolly and Pitbull got to be the main event. I'm off the card. Tim Tszyu, gutsy fighter, ton of heart, mi corazón. You know, I respect it. This is a banger. This is a good fight. Sebastian Fundora, he doesn't have the best defense. We seen him drop and hurt by Lubin, and he got dropped and knocked out in his last fight with Brian Mendoza, a guy that Tim Tszyu beat. But I think everyone's just banking on that. Tim Tszyu has looked better. Tim Tszyu is a beast, and he's a threat, and he beat the guy that beat the guy. Like Brian Mendoza was coming off the Fundora win, and then he went over to Australia and got beaten decisively by Tim Tszyu. So boxing doesn't work like that, though. You know what I mean? Like, triangle theories don't work. I can really name several examples of this where this guy beat this guy, but then he lost to this guy who got beaten by this guy. So I do not believe in triangle theories one bit in boxing. And if you watch boxing long enough, then you would agree with that statement, no questions asked. Because so many times we've seen this where just because this fighter beats this fighter, like for example, you look at a guy like Joseph Parker, right? Joseph Parker lost to Anthony Joshua, and he was knocked out by Joe Joyce, right? So Joseph Parker lost to Joe Joyce by stoppage, but then Joe Joyce later fights Zille Zong, the big Chinese heavyweight, and he loses 2 fights. The second one he lost even worse. His eye gets shut in the first one, and he gets destroyed in the second one. Joe Joyce brutally knocked out Joseph Parker, right? Brutally knocked him out. And then he can't get past Zille Zong, who beat him convincingly, especially in the second fight. And then Joseph Parker, after losing to Joe Joyce and then like taking some tune-ups, he just beat Wilder, and then he just beat Zille Zong, the guy that beat Joe Joyce. So Joe Joyce, again, knocked out Joseph Parker, and then he fights Zille Zong, and he can't get past him in 2 fights, even in the rematch. Zille Zong couldn't get past Joseph Parker, and Deontay Wilder couldn't get past Joseph Parker. And Joshua lost, or actually Joshua beat Joseph Parker. But if Wilder at a point in time and Joshua were to have fought, it doesn't mean that Joshua absolutely would have beaten Wilder. You know what I mean? So triangle theories are useless, and I respect the Mendoza performance by Tszyu, but he's in there with the guy he didn't train for in Sebastian Fundora, who happens to be a freak of nature in the height department. So definitely check out this fight. Let me know what you guys think. Crazy. When I seen these media day pictures, I don't know what I was expecting, but this got to be the tallest replacement opponent a boxer has stepped in with such little time to prepare for the switch. You know, incredible stuff. Let me know what you guys think.